Welcome to the Women of Christmas. My name is Mandy Kelly and I'm the founder at Worshipful Living, and I am so glad that you're joining us. As we've already studied, we've been talking about lineage and legacy and how very important these women that were mentioned in the lineage of Christ. We're going to be studying the woman Tamar and Rahab and Ruth and Bathsheba and Mary. And then we're also adding in Elizabeth and Anna, two women that were very important to the Christmas story. And we're going to be looking at ourselves through the eyes of these women, because I feel like we are on every page of Scripture, that God has a story for us in each and every story that He tells. And today, this weekend, we've been looking at Tamar. And Tamar was the daughter-in-law of Judah. And she had married his son, Er, and it was his firstborn. And the Lord killed him because he did evil in the sight of the Lord. And then, as it was, there was supposed to be an heir, and there wasn't one. And in that time, they would go to the next of kin, the next brother down the line, and they would give that woman a child. Well, the brother did not want to give his brother an heir, and so he did some things that made that not happen, and the Lord killed him. And so Judah promised her his youngest son that was still younger. He was not ready to be married, and so she remains a widow until that time. Well, as time goes on, Judah's wife also passes away, and we find that the younger son has become of age, and yet he is not given to Tamar for a wife. And Tamar gets really upset, and instead of going to Judah and trying to make things right, or praying and asking God what she should do, she takes matters into her own hands. Maybe you can relate with that, of a time when things didn't go quite the way you thought they should, and you decided to take things into your own hands. And so she takes on the clothes of a harlot, and she goes and has affairs with Judah, and she comes with child. Now, she was smart. She was manipulative, but she was smart, and she asked him for his signet and his cord so that when he would come again, that she would know that it was him. And after 3 months, when it's found out that she is pregnant, Judah wants to have her killed because she has played the role of a harlot, because she is still technically shouldn't be out just being with anyone. And she shows him his signet and his cord and says, basically, you're the father of this child. Now, that whole story sounds like something that would be on a modern day talk show, but it is very true, and it's very much from the Scriptures. Tamar didn't wait on God's timing. She was manipulative, and she did some things that weren't the way that God probably would have had her to do it. God had a plan, though, and God used her mess and gave the ultimate message. For it is through Judah and Tamar's child that the lineage of Christ is. Now, I can't say that I would pick this crazy story from the book of Genesis that's kind of nestled in to the whole story of Joseph that's going on around it. I don't know that I would have picked this line for Jesus to be born into, but God would, because God can turn our messes into ultimate messages of His glory and His grace and redemption. Jesus is what Christmas is all about, and Christmas is all about salvation. And God took this woman, Tamar, and He redeemed her story. He redeemed it out of the mess that it was, and allowed it to become a message, and allowed His Son to come through it. Maybe you have had a time in your life where you have struggled, where you have wanted to go ahead of God, where you have wanted to make things happen in your own timing, in your own way, the way you wanted it to play out. You didn't want to wait on God and see how He would do it. And so you intervene. God can even take those moments, even though there may not have been the way He would have done it. He can take those moments and He can make those messes into messages. Messages that you and I can share in generation and generation to come and say, look at the goodness of God. I didn't deserve grace, but God gave it. and he poured it out on me lavishly, because that's what he does with Tamar. He poured out his grace, and he allows Jesus Christ to come through the tribe of Judah. He allows Jesus Christ to come through the line of Tamar. And he allows that to be a part of who Jesus is. Because all of our history, all of our lineage, all the people that have gone and poured into our lives and the lives of our parents and in the lives of our grandparents, that is all a part of who we are today. It is a part of who God is using us to be. And so with that in mind, it is a part of who Jesus Christ is. That he would have a woman who played the harlot. That he would have a woman who was manipulative and deceptive. But I think of another woman, a woman in the New Testament, who was found in an adulterous act. And Jesus showed grace and mercy on her. And I wonder if he knew that story of Tamar, his great grandmother. I wonder if he knew that story. And because of that story, he was able to extend much grace. Yes, he was Jesus, and so yes, he had much grace to extend. But I wonder if he thought of that woman in his lineage, that woman in his legacy that needed grace, and saw it in the face of that woman caught in the very act. Jesus Christ gives much grace. If you have had a moment where you have not, you have acted quickly, where you have manipulated a situation, there is grace for that. If there has been moments where you have known you should have done something, maybe you're Judah in the story and you knew something you should have done was right, but you didn't follow through, you have time to make it right. God is all about redemption, and he is all about redeeming you and your story. I hope you will join me tomorrow. We are jumping into the book of Rahab, or not in the book of Rahab. We're jumping into the story of Rahab, and we're going to see a woman who was a harlot. 2 harlots in the lineage of Christ. What an awesome story of redemption. In the meantime, worship God with your life.